We're gonna have a friend throughout this. Okay, can you just move a little bit that way? So before I jump into what this video is actually about, I just wanted to take a second to talk about why I'm here, just because I think setting my intentions will help for me. But basically, I have a bunch of free time in the next 3 months because I just graduated from college and have nothing to do for the entire summer. And I want to spend my time more meaningfully than just kind of sitting around watching Netflix. In addition to that, I kind of perceive my ways of having fun or spending my downtime in two different camps. There's like mindless fun, which is like, Netflix, YouTube, really passive stuff that I can just turn my brain off and watch or consume, versus like mindful fun, which feels at least somewhat intellectual. I bring something to it a little bit in a way that feels a little bit more meaningful to me. And I've started feeling this kind of shift where reading has been going from mindful, meaningful fun to feeling a little bit more mindless. I kind of just feel like I shut my brain off. I just consume the book for the sake of like being interested in the story, and then it's over and I don't really think about it again. I think when I was making videos, even though, I feel very awkward and weird about it, sometimes I think it helped me a lot to be more mindful about what I was reading and make me feel like I was engaging with whatever I was reading more. I want to be doing this again, so bear with me. We'll see what happens, but that's just like a little intro to this actual video just to kind of explain and set my intentions. We'll kind of see what happens from there. But moving forward, hello and welcome to this reading vlog. So this vlog specifically is based off of the fact that I recently watched the Netflix TV show Heartstopper, which is based on Alice Oseman's graphic novel series about these two boys who become best friends and then fall in love, and kind of their love story and life in general. And I absolutely fell in love with the show. I think I watched it like 5 or 6 times at this point. And one of the things about the show that I love the most is its soundtrack. Every song in the show so perfectly encapsulates the moment and just like felt very inspiring to have like the aesthetics, the music, the story, the characters, the acting, the plot, everything just come together really beautifully. While I was watching for probably like the 5th time, I kind of got the idea how every song kind of tells a story, especially I think when it's used in, cinema and TV. And so I had an idea to kind of go through all the songs in the Heartstopper soundtrack and come up with like a challenge for a book to read based on the song. And I did that. And then I was like, oh, I want to actually do this now. Like, I want to actually read the books based on this. But there's like more than 30 songs in all of Heartstopper. And so I decided to pick my 4 favorite songs from the show and use the prompts for those 4 to create a little TBR that I will read through and talk about over the course of this vlog. If you feel like seeing the whole list, it's linked below on Storygraph, and I had a lot of fun coming up with it, so feel free to take a look at it, read along to it if you want. The first song that I chose from the soundtrack is Girls by Girl in Red, and this entire song is kind of about a girl coming to terms with the fact that she's lesbian. I decided that I wanted to make the prompt more about the fact that the whole song is kind of like about appreciating women for like their beauty and their grace and kind of just being in awe of them. So the prompt for Girls is to read a book with pretty much all female protagonists, or like as many female protagonists as possible. For this one, I chose Red Clocks by Lenny Zumas. It takes place kind of in a future world where abortion is completely illegal, which is very scary and very topical, but I will push through and read it. The reason that I think it's perfect for a book with a lot of female protagonists is that I know that there's, I think, like 4 or 5 main characters who are all women, who are all dealing with this new reality they live in. 5 different stories kind of come together in this world that feels, as it says on the cover, chillingly relevant. The second song I chose is Fever Dream by MXM Toon. This song is kind of about, I want something more than just like mundane. Even if my life is just this life, I want to like bring excitement to it. I want to have this life be more than just kind of the bare minimum or the baseline. So my prompt for this one was to read a book with some kind of magical realism. So for this one, I chose Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson. It's about these 2 women who are best friends when they're younger, and then they get older and pull apart, and then get pulled back together when one of the women asks the other to be a babysitter to her 2 kids. The catch is that the 2 kids spontaneously combust, like literally catch on fire when they're agitated. And so I think that this will be a really interesting read and will fit the vibe of Fever Dream pretty well. The third song that I chose is Buzzkill by Baby Queen. As the name suggests, Buzzkill is a song about the artist feeling like a buzzkill, and like she shows up to parties and people are like, we get it, you're unhappy, but we're trying to have fun, so why are you here and why are you being negative? So the prompt to go along with this song is to read a book that is really popular and people really seem to love, but you think you're really going to dislike. For this one is also actually just like 2 short stories, and that's, I think, the first 2 Sherlock Holmes stories. Obviously, people really love Sherlock Holmes, but I just have a feeling that I'm really gonna hate it. I think maybe part of it is because all the suspense will be gone because I've already watched the TV show. I want to like it, and so I'll try it, but hi baby. But I'm not too sure about it, so I'll read it and then let you know how I feel. The fourth and final song that I'm using for this challenge, vlog, whatever, is Why Am I Like This by Orla Garland, which sounds kind of like a coming-of-age story about this girl having a very teenage-feeling moment, but then also having this kind of like anxiety and continuously questioning, like, why am I like this? Why am I the way that I am? I decided to make the prompt for this one to read a book that's a coming-of-age story, and because Heartstopper is all like a gay romance, preferably it'd be a gay coming-of-age story. For this one, I am choosing possibly one of the most hyped books I've ever seen on the internet, and that is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I'm pretty sure Achilles and Patroclus. I've got some sort of vibe going on, and I know that it's a coming of age because it's about like training for war, getting older and then going to war, and obviously I know that it's not gonna have a happy ending because I'm pretty sure I know how this war ends. Hopefully it lives up to all the hype that I have seen it get on the internet. Okay, so those are the books that I'm gonna read for this vlog. Hopefully the rest of the vlog will not be as long as this intro. I will come back when I have any real thoughts or opinions about any of these books. Talk to you when that happens. Until then, wish me luck. Oh, doggo. Okay, so I finished my first book, and that was Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson. It followed these 2 women, Lillian and Madison, who were close and knew each other when they were younger, and then they had some sort of falling out and aren't really that close anymore. But then Madison reaches out to Lillian and asks her to basically come and nanny for her children, with the caveat that her children catch on fire when they're agitated. I thought it delivered on the premise really well, and I very much enjoyed my reading experience. I think especially what it did well is the author characterized our main character Lillian really well, and we could see this like anger combined with this kind of sense of gallows humor sort of, and it made for a really compelling narrative. And I think the relationship between Lillian and the 2 children she's taking care of, the 2 kids that catch on fire, was really well done, in that I really believed how much they cared about each other, and I also cared about all of them and their relationship a lot. One thing I will say though is that basically throughout the novel, it's clear that like Lillian feels very attached and protective over these children because she didn't necessarily have the best parents growing up. Kevin Wilson makes it really clear, like explicitly throughout the novel, that is a big part of the reason why she feels so protective of these children. But honestly, I think that it was a little bit too much. Like I think it would have been more enjoyable if you'd kind of just like left the clues throughout the book and then trusted the reader to intuit the reason she felt so protective and close to these kids, rather than really beating it over the head and holding our hand through seeing it. The other thing is that I thought the relationship between Lillian and Madison was really interesting, but basically in like the first 50 pages of the book, you find out kind of what caused this sort of falling out between Lillian and Madison. I think it would have been more interesting to see it kind of interwoven throughout the story. That way, as you kind of come to the reveal and understand exactly what went wrong in their relationship, you also already have the understanding of how their relationship is now, and you kind of learn more about their present relationship as you understand why it's like that and learn more about their past relationship. I think if I was the editor of the book, I probably would have edited it to be like that instead. And because I thought the relationship between Lillian and Madison was so interesting, I would have been down for more of the book to have been dedicated to kind of learning about and talking about them. But overall, this was a solid, I think, like 4-star read for me, a very good way to start this reading vlog. Despite kind of some little changes or things that I didn't absolutely love, I very much enjoyed my reading experience and would highly recommend it. So, very solid start. Oh, these books are just here. I'm looking at the stack of like other books that I have to read, and I'm not sure which one I want to read next. I'm thinking maybe Song of Achilles, but I'm nervous because I know it's quite sad, and I don't know if I'm like prepared for that yet. It also just sounds pretty good, so maybe I'll dive into it.
Last night I smoked a cigarette. My dad would have been so upset. Then we got tattoos by the coast.
Here we are. We're making do. We're making it happen. It's all gonna work. All fine. Let's talk about books. Speaking of books, hey, see? Isn't that pretty cool? Okay, yeah, this hat was a good idea. Okay, sorry. Let's talk about books. I finished The Song of Achilles last night, and I decided to wait until today to give thoughts, just because if I tried to talk about this book last night, it would just be a very emo, teary-eyed, incoherent rambling. And I think today I will ideally be a bit more coherent, which is in the best interest of all of us. So The Song of Achilles is, as you might imagine, about Achilles, who is pretty well known in common culture. He's kind of known to be one of the greatest warriors of the Trojan War. And this book follows not just him, but also Patroclus, who's a lot less well known, who is his companion and best friend. It follows them from childhood into eventually adulthood as they meet and kind of have this disdain for one another, and then as they go off to train together and become really close, become best friends, and then as they eventually go off to the Trojan War and fight together. I always like when people take Greek mythology and either do a different take on it or establish certain characters that aren't as explored. It seems to me that Madeline Miller had two key goals as she was writing this. The first was to kind of shed light on certain aspects of characters and certain characters that haven't really been explored prior, so specifically Patroclus, but then also in the book, Achilles isn't really portrayed as a warrior, or his fighting skills aren't really talked about until kind of the tail end of the novel. And the majority of the book is talking about what an amazing musician he is and how he's just this young, curious boy who doesn't really want to fight and isn't really inherently that interested in being a warrior, despite the fact that it's been prophesized and fated that he's going to be the best warrior of his time. And then the second thing that I think she was trying to highlight was, throughout the novel, they talk about how Achilles is referred to as the best of the Greeks, because it was prophesized and known to be that he was going to be the greatest warrior on the Greek side in the Trojan War. I think it kind of subverts that expectation a little bit. It kind of highlights different ways in which you can come of age and what it really means to be a man, even in this world where war and fighting was so respected. I loved this book. I thought it was beautifully written and executed. That being said, I think my main complaint is just it did feel a little slow at times. Like, I think nearing the end of the book, I had this urge to keep picking it up and really push through it and see what happens, but early on in the book, although I enjoyed it every time I picked it up, I didn't feel this pressing urge to keep going back to it. So I wonder if maybe there was a way it could have been pared down a little bit at the beginning, or given maybe a tiny bit more of a through line that pushes it forward. But besides that, I think it was really expertly crafted, and obviously it's an incredibly popular book, and there's a good reason for it. And honestly, I don't think I would have read it if not for this challenge, so I'm glad that I did. As a reminder, it fulfills the prompt for Why Am I Like This by Orla Gartland. It's a coming-of-age novel, and it's, not really a spoiler alert, gay. Up next, I think I'm going to read the Sherlock Holmes, just because I think I'm going to like Red Clocks more, and because I already think this is the one that I am not going to like, I don't want to leave it till the end and then just end on a low note in case I don't like it. So I want to pick this up so that I don't push it off to the last book.
Oh boy, here comes the killjoy, chill the hell out. You're so young, just shut up. You're bringing me down, and parties are supposed to be fun. I don't wanna be a buzzkill. I hate to be a buzzkill.
Okay, I've got some updates. First of all, I'm a little bit of the way through Sherlock Holmes. My update here is that I'm not having a good time when I pick it up. It's just not exactly the most exciting, or I don't feel that deep emotion that I feel when I'm reading some of these other books. In contrast, I picked up Red Clocks, and I absolutely love this so far. I figured I'd just come here and give you a quick update before eventually, I guess, talking about my overall thoughts about both of these books. Alright, we're gonna make this quick because I feel so awkward about being heard or seen while I'm filming these things that I have in fact displaced both of my parents from where they usually work to another part of the house in order to film without being perceived, which is a little bit sad and a little bit embarrassing, so we're gonna make it go fast and then work on that in the future. I got a couple books to talk about right now, and then we can wrap this up. The first is that I finished A Study in Scarlet and The Sign of the Four, and I did not like it. I, in fact, very much disliked it, and I think I can give you 3 reasons for that. The first is that it's just racist. Like, it's obviously written in the late 1800s, so of course it's racist, but it's so overt that, given the fact that there was so much other stuff that I didn't like, it wasn't worth slogging through. It's very colonialist, it's very imperialist, and it just exists as like an actual part of the plot through both of these stories in such an overt way that it was just hard for me to get through. The second reason I didn't like it is just from like a mystery standpoint. I like mystery stories where if you're smart enough and you pay enough attention, you can actually intuit what happened and why it happened before the story ends, and it all kind of comes together in this really satisfying way. In this, you need so much backstory and context that it's just impossible to come up with it on your own. And in fact, the first book jumps into this random aside about like Mormonism, and it's so out of left field, and I didn't like that. Just the way the mystery is designed, you can't really figure it out on your own. The third reason I didn't like it is just because obviously Sir Arthur Conan Doyle did something crazy with these books and short stories, and they sparked not only like direct Sherlock Holmes adaptations, but also shows like Psych and Monk, where there's like this person who's consulted by the police who's really, really observant and good at deductive reasoning. And I love those shows, and I love the Sherlock show. I'd be remiss if I didn't say I know that they're all kind of stemming from this. But honestly, they just do it better, and I like it more, and it's more entertaining, it's funnier, it's better written, it's not overtly racist. If you're living in this day and age, maybe just watch those things, or read the books that are like that, and save yourself the trouble of reading this. Oh, but I know it's like the original, and it's a classic, so I don't want to say that. It just wasn't worth it for me, personally. The second book I have to talk about is a much more positive one, and that is Red Clocks by Lainey Zumis. Like I said before, this follows 4 different women who are all living in this America in the future where the personhood amendment has been put into place, and fetuses and embryos are basically granted the same rights as a full-fledged human. And so it follows these 4 women who are interacting with this world in different ways. I absolutely loved this novel. I think there's so much. Lainey Zumis did so well in it. For example, all of them are referred to in their like chapter headings via a relationship to somebody else. So there's the biographer, the mender, the daughter, and the wife. And it's this really interesting juxtaposition of like, as embryos and fetuses are gaining in their kind of personhood, these women are being defined as people only in relation to others and not really as their own entity. And so it's removing from them while these like embryos are gaining. It says a lot without having to say that much. I think the thing that struck me most about this novel was so much of what happens feels very realistic. And it doesn't feel like she had to add drama to things or overplay things, because she did such a good job of getting to the heart of the pain of a certain situation and making it feel absolutely dramatic without having to over-dramatize it. It was just really good and well-written, and I really enjoyed it. Okay, that brings us to the end of this little adventure. Thanks for coming along with me in the ride. I don't really have much else to say, except I'm really glad that I decided to do this, because I ended up finding 3 books that I knew I wanted to read but wasn't getting around to. It also confirmed for me that maybe I can trust my own sense of what I do and don't like, and should continue to trust it, which is good to know for the future. If you haven't already, you should watch Heartstopper. I feel like it's a perfect feel-good, lovely thing, especially in June, which is Pride Month. Besides that, Thanks for sticking through it. If you did, I will see you in the next one. Bye.